This video is a demonstration of how we can use the Informed K-12 portal to manage our forms. This is for people that are in a workflow and an approval workflow within Informed K-12. And it's just an alternative to managing forms that you're a part of without using your inbox. The inbox can get kind of confusing because you may have 5 or 6 forms that you're an approver on, and with different staff members submitting these forms, and it just gets to be a little hard to manage in your inbox. And so this video is going to just explain how to use the portal, which is highly recommended to manage your forms. For this video, we are going to talk about the professional leave form, which is moving online, as well as the caseload workday form. And I have several accounts already set up, test accounts set up, so I can act as if I'm a building administrative assistant, building principal, or a staff member. So as a reminder, to get to the professional leave form, requesting staff will go to the intranet site, and there'll be a link on the intranet site under professional leave, as well as some other information regarding the professional leave process and some documentation for staff to be able to complete this form. Recall that the professional leave form is actually 2 parts to a single form. It's the pre-trip, where we are granting approval to go onto the professional leave, as well as estimating our expenses. That has an approval process, and then once the employee goes on the trip and comes back, they'll access this same form again via email, and they'll complete their post-trip actions, which is the reimbursement rates. So you can see that I've already started as a test staff member. I've already started a couple of these forms, and if I click View My Form, you can see what step I'm currently on. This is the requesting staff member filled out this information and sent it along to the appropriate approval. So in this case, I'm going to just start another one so we can see this process. Click Test Staff, and I'll click Go to Form. And as we complete this information, everything in red, recall, everything in red is going to be required. We want to make sure there's a title. I know it's putting test information in here. Choose our school from the drop-down, the number of days we're attending. This is required, but it could be 0. And then, of course, the dates that we're attending. This is going to be for professional development. Again, if we choose other options, sometimes there's going to be more information that is required. In this case, this is going to be the evidence of the actual event. So I'm going to say it's professional development. We want to accept. And then the description of the attachment itself is going to be a registration confirmation. It is required on both pre-trip and post-trip to have an attachment. So I've attached my document. There'll be another opportunity. Now, if there's multiple attachments that are required from the staff, they can just click this again and then have another option for choose files. So they can click as many times as they need to attach all the files required for this. I'm just going to say this is in Davenport, Iowa. And from the county list, this is an important part of the pre-trip because it'll dictate the reimbursement rate for meals. In this case, it's going to be out of state. If there are specific counties that are listed, we want to make sure we choose them based off the city. But if they're not selected, so let's say they just went to Moline, Rock Island County, would be an Illinois county not listed. So I'm going to say out of state for this one. I don't need a sub for this particular one, but if I did, note that we'd have to put more information in. Then I'm going to initial. And now here on this worksheet here, this is the pre-trip expenses. These are the expenses that I anticipate this thing costing. So I'm just going to say there's a 50-mile round trip at this rate. Lodging is $450, and I have 1 full meal. That's not, so this will be if meals are not covered by the particular conference. That's out of state, and we'll just say 1 breakfast for the next day. That's out of state. And the form itself is starting to already populate the number for us. If the district didn't pay for registration ahead of time, then we want to put that in there. And again, there's information that's populating. If an advance is requested, it sparks another process. In this case, I'm going to say no, but just note if I say yes, then I have other information to fill out. And then I'm going to go ahead and sign as a teacher. And then click continue. And this is important because it's going to determine the route for the particular staff member. So if I was a K-8 specialist teacher, then the route is going to go to the specialist department chair and then to the building principal. If I was a high school teacher, it's going to go to the department chair and then to the assistant principal, then to the principal, and then it moves on through there. So this part of it is very important. And if for some reason we missed a category for an employee, we can always choose not listed, and then this will bring up a list of the supervisors of people that would approve this form. If you ever see somebody that's not in this list that needs to be, and we miss them, just email edtech@mollingschools.org and we'll get them added. In this case, I'm just going to say use a test account, my test AA account. And so that's moved along. So as I said, it can get very confusing to work out of your email address. So right now I'm in the test administrative assistant account. And you can see that just for this particular form and the test that I've done, the information that comes through and what it looks like. By using the portal instead of the email and trying to figure out where you're at, you get a good glimpse of what's going on. So when you sign in, if you sign into app.informedk12.com, and this will be in the documentation, then a list of all of the forms that you are a part of the workflow or have permission to will be here. And if you have a form that you're a part of that you don't see, just email EdTech, and we can make sure that you have those permissions. So in this case, this test administrative assistant has a caseload workday, a professional leave, and a regular professional leave form. And you can see that I'm logged in as a test AA. So, and you can also see that I've got some information that I need to do. I got some things I have to do. Note that there's a Gmail type icon right here, and this is not Gmail itself, but it kind of looks like that. If I click on this email icon, this is all the tasks that I have listed for me in kind of a nice view by form. So for the caseload workday professional leave form, I have something I have to do for this one. I have a couple of different professional leave forms that I have to do. And now from this screen, I can continue on and I can start working through each of these things. And it'll tell you at the top what's going on. So I'm currently on step 2. So we're going to look at this, and again, I'm just kind of using test data here. Send the next approver. I'm going to continue to choose my test administrative assistant here so we can see how this information continues to populate here for you. So now you can see I still have 4 actions that I need to complete. So I'm going to come to this professional leave form. And right now I am on step 5, which is the building leaders. I'm just going to put test information here. And send the next approver. Anytime there's prompts as you're working through your approval, anytime there's prompts for this, you want to make sure that you choose the correct one. This particular prompt for request for special education staff is going to determine if this goes to student services or if it goes to the deputy superintendent. So I'm going to say no. And once we go live with this form, you won't see this test approver information, and you can see the only approvers are going to be Dr. Pribble. So I'm going to choose my test account. Right. So as the approval goes through, as the employee finishes their approval and they go through each one of these steps, and it goes to the appropriate building leader, and it goes to the central office reviewer, and then it goes back to, it finally gets to the building administrative assistant. At that point, at that step, everything is finished. So the building administrative assistant, when you receive these, this is actually one that is waiting on the building administrative assistant. When you see these, you're just notating where this person is going, notating the absence, doing what you need to do for ASAP or for any budgeting, and just notating that this particular staff member is going to be gone. Now, as a building administrative assistant, I'm going to move this through, and we're going to be asked a question. Is this a request for reimbursable expense? If it is a request for a reimbursable expense, then we want to make sure that we send this back to the employee. If there are no reimbursable expenses, then we're just going to complete the form. There is no post-trip to do. We've recorded the absence, everything's approved, and so we'll just send it back to the requesting employee, and it'll just be completed. In this case, I'm going to say yes, and note that it's going to send it back to the requesting employees. That's the only option that you have. So I'm going to send to recipient. And now if I go to my test staff, I have to make sure I'm in my test staff account. That's my principal. You can see that there's information. This is the requesting employee account. You can see that there's information that they're receiving from Informed K-12 regarding all the steps within this process. Now again, this is very important. There are two parts to the professional leave form. The first part is pre-trip and the second part is post-trip. So after the pre-trip approval is done and is signed off by a cabinet member, the employee will get a message that looks like this, that says, everything's approved, you can go. When that is sent back after your step, after the billing administrative assistant step is finished, then you're going to send it back a second time to the employee, and now they're going to go on their trip. When they come back from their trip and they want to have reimbursed expenses, they'll have to find this email and they'll have to complete this form. So in this test account, I have action required, and that's what they're looking for. They're looking for an email that says action required. And that's going to allow me as a staff member, the requesting staff member, to go to the post-trip actions and start completing this information. I'm actually going to leave that for right now. So what's possible is that you will have employees that are going on this trip or have a trip approved, and maybe it's a week or a couple weeks or maybe even a couple of months between the time that their pre-trip is approved and they actually go on their trip, so they could very well lose that message. As an approver within the workflow, as a building administrative assistant, you have the option to go into each of these forms that you have access to and do some things and take a look at some reports and where things are at. So if that particular staff member said, for some reason, I can't find that form, or I don't know what to do to get my reimbursement, anything that's along step 14 is where the post-trip starts. So in this case, you can just find the teacher's name. You can see that it's waiting on the teacher. This is the one they can't find. So if I put a check mark in this form, now at the top, I have options to send a reminder. So I'll send a reminder. You can customize this message as much as you want or leave it as is. So now for the requesting employee, you can see that the administrative assistant has sent a reminder for this form, and that person can now click on this and complete their post-trip actions. So sending the reminder, especially for the professional leave and the caseload workday, might be a very good, useful tool for you. Anyone can always email edtech@willingschools.org, and we'll be glad to help them with this and try to find those forms. But that might be a portion of the form that we have to watch out for, is that delay between getting the second part, the step 14, back in their email, going on the trip, coming back from the trip, and accessing that email again to be able to see it. Some other things that you can do from this screen is just generally just see what's going on with all of your forms. So if you wanted to, for anyone that's unopened, or for for anyone that's unopened or anyone that's started, you could check a bunch of them for whatever criteria. And from here, you can download them as well. So if I click download, I have the option to download them as a nice spreadsheet. So you get just a spreadsheet of the leaves that are out there that you checked. You can do as a single PDF file. So those 3 leaves will come as a single PDF, or as individual PDFs if you, for some reason, wanted to print these off and keep them so you have track of what's going on and who's going where. The other thing that you might see is that somebody wants to go on leave and it's gone through the approval process, but then they decide after the pre-trip approval that they're not going to go, or something else happened. So you can also cancel. So if I click this one and I click cancel, now that form would be completely done. There's nothing else they can do. If the employee decides that they're going to go on the trip after all, after you've canceled it, then a new form will have to be submitted. We also have, for each of these forms, there's this little area right here. This is for the attachments. That'll show you what attachments they have. But there's also these three vertical dots that you can click on. And from here, you can cancel the form. You can change an approver, so perhaps your administrative or your administrator is not in. You can change the approver to a sub-administrator. There are times where you'll see that, especially for the form itself. I'm just going to go into the form. Initiate a test response. On this page, this is not pre-filled for anyone. So our staff, once they click on this form to initiate it, they're going to have to type in their name and their email address, and it's possible that they can mistype their email address. So if you have a staff member saying that they can't, for some reason they're not getting any messages, then you could select a form and go to those vertical dots, and you can update the initiator as well. So if you click Update Initiator, this is where you can change that email address if you want to. Along the approval route also on your step, what may happen is that there's information that's missing for either the pre-trip or the post-trip. So the approvers on these forms can take their action and they can sign. I'm just going to sign. Add a signature here. And when you move along, we're going to use this red button to move things along to the next approver. But note there's also two other options. One is to request corrections. So at any point, if you see that there's information that's missing, perhaps it's a budget code, or the dates aren't going to work, or they misspelled something, or maybe it's just the wrong form in general, you can click Request Corrections, and then you can send it back throughout the route. So if we were on step 15 on this thing, you would see 15 steps, and you can send it back throughout. That can go back to an administrator, it can go back to the requesting employee, or it can go back to anybody else that's been along that route already. So we'll choose who it goes back to. We'll choose the reason why it's an incorrect budget code, and just say, please add the account number. And now when I click Request Corrections, it's going to kick that back to the staff member, and you can see that the test administrative assistant has kicked this back and said, I need you to put the correct budget codes in. And all that is done from the portal itself. So you can see there's a lot of advantages to working from the portal versus trying to work from your email, just for the general organization and also to see what's going on. And again, you may have multiple forms that you're a part of the workflow. You could be direct pay, it could be a professional leave, it could be an absence request, a field trip. You'll be able to get a good idea of what's going on with your forms by using this screen and seeing what's going on for each one. The professional leave form itself was broken out into two different forms, and this is going to be something to communicate. So for anyone that has a caseload workday or requesting a caseload workday, we're no longer using the professional leave form. We're going to use the caseload workday form. And I don't have to fill this form out. You can just to give you an idea of what it looks like. Each of all the red fields are there. We do want to obviously list the day of the workday, how many caseload workdays they've had before, the current number of students, and so forth. And it's going to be very similar to the professional leave form. The staff member will have to choose what employee group they are. That'll dictate the workflow. It'll go through its appropriate workflow, including you, for you to notate everything. But since you're a part of the workflow, you'll see that there's quite a bit of information, the same type of information that you can do or tasks that you can complete. So this one's been unopened. It's been 24 hours. It's the test teacher, so I'm going to click Send Reminder. And now that's going to go to the teacher asking for that. So you can send reminders to your administrator. You could send reminders to anyone along the route of what's going on. Or again, you can also cancel, or you can download and print these as well. It starts with the selection. So once we make a selection, then we have these options. Lastly, I want to talk about the deny option. So if we find one that we're waiting on, which would be, we'll say we're the test principal in this case. Oh, that's waiting on the principal. We'll see if I find one that's waiting on our action. When you click on the deny for any one of these, it's just like with the cancel. It's going to stop the form completely. I don't have one to display here, but it's going to stop the form. So you saw before where you send a next approver, there was request corrections in this red button. There's also one for deny, and it'll do something very similar. It'll prompt you for a reason for the denial. It'll ask you for a subcategory and then ask you for information on that, and then the reasoning for it, and then the staff member will receive an email that says it's been denied, and then they can at least they know the reason why in the email. Now, for whatever reason, if a form is denied and they decide that it's approved for budgetary, the money came through or something, so they're actually going to go. Again, anytime you cancel a form or deny a form, a new form has to be generated if that staff member decides that they're going to go. So these are just a few of the things you can do inside of the portal when you work inside of the portal. Again, if you don't have access to a form that you're a part of the workflow or that you want to manage, just let EdTech know by emailing edtech@moynischools.org. If you need additional help with working with your forms, just email EdTech, and we'll be glad to sit with you and meet with you. It's very possible that some of these forms are going to have a lot of forms as we go through this that we can manage, and there's ways that we can keep this organized as well by archiving and such. So we can certainly help you with all those things. So yeah, just let us know how we can help you, and thank you very much.